Garrett, let's go to the SEC, shall we? I'm going to start
Love it.
with my over pick in the SEC. If you've been listening this offseason, you probably know the direction that I'm going to take with this one. It's my Kentucky Wildcats. They are quickly becoming a darling team for me. 4.5 on the over under, and they have a brutal schedule. I've read it off on this podcast before. I'll spare you guys the line by line reading of the schedule for Kentucky this year, but Will Stein coming down from Oregon. I've said it once, I've said it a million times. He's got a nice portal class that he's put together. I think the offensive talent at Kentucky is going to be better than we've seen there in a long time, and it's going to be a modern offense. Finally, I know it was fun the days of Benny Snell and the wide receivers running the Wildcat out of the quarterback position. Those were fun. They were fun gimmicks, and they led to some wins at the height of the Stoops era. But a modern offense with someone that actually knows what they're doing, sign me the heck up in Lexington. So I think they're going to make a nice surprise this year. I think they're going to make a bowl game. Their line's sitting there at 4.5. I'll even go all the way up to them winning 6 games and making a bowl. Will Stein year 1.
I think that's a great pick. Yeah, we're going to talk real nice about Kentucky probably for the rest of the offseason. My over team is sitting there with the line at 7.5, and they made the playoff last year. Guys, what's up with the Oklahoma Sooners getting the disrespect? I mean, what is that all about? Yes, it's a tricky schedule. I give you that. They go to Michigan. They go to Georgia. Obviously, they got Texas in the middle of the schedule. They got to play Ole Miss and A&M, both of those games at home, so could be good for them. But there's a lot of really winnable games in there. I just read you 4 games that are like probably tough for them, and that's still over what that number is at 7.5. If you're telling me I'm supposed to believe in Missouri, Florida, South Carolina, Mississippi State, yes, Kentucky's in there. Again, we just talked about them, but to the level that they can start knocking off teams that just made the playoff and didn't lose their quarterback. And I think a lot of us were very excited about, kind of the quarterback situation. Oklahoma didn't really pan out, maybe a lingering injury. But that situation, it should be fine. Trey, you were just talking about a team that we might have been a little early on. I'll tell you a player we might have been a little early on was that Oklahoma quarterback, right? I think that we're possibly early on, watching Oklahoma rise back up to being another really good offense. I just kind of believe in what they've got built there. They've been consistent. They had a tough year 1 in the SEC, bounced back real nice, made the playoff. I think they got a chance to make a run at a playoff again. It's going to be a lot tougher this year, but all I have to do is say that, maybe Michigan's not quite as good as we think they are. Maybe Ole Miss isn't quite as good as they think they are without the head coach. Maybe A&M was a bit of a flash in the pan. They're not quite as good as we think they are. And we're already back up at 10 or 11 wins. We're starting to talk about that again. Yeah, I'm excited about this. I think that this is a really good number, and I think that 7.5 is an easy smash the over.
That was the one I was most surprised at when I was putting this list together. Oklahoma at 7.5, and what I was even more surprised at was the under is the betting favorite at -122. So you're getting juice to pick the over at 7.5. That one, Ole Miss is also there at 7.5 in the SEC. I forgot to go down the list in the Big Ten to ask if any other ones stood out, but yeah, Oklahoma and Ole Miss were 2 of the most surprising ones for me, for a team that just made the college football playoff, gave Alabama all they could handle, and returns their quarterback. That was really, really surprising to me. I think it shows that I think the general public definitely views the 2025 Sooners as luck merchants. They won a lot of close games. They won with playing, offense with one hand tied behind their back for most of the season. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that transfers into 2026.
And I know that they probably are never going to say it, but do you really believe that Mateer was fully healthy? We've seen what he can do. I guarantee you that hand was bothering him probably the entire year, and that was why all of that happened. So, give him an off season, let him get healthy, let him get a little bit of rhythm, a little bit more, comfortable with what he's doing there in Norman. I think we're going to be just fine.
Highest SEC team is at 9.5. That's Texas and Georgia. I can't remember. I know that's probably a product of adding a ninth conference game, but
Sure.
just another interesting nugget there
Well,
as
and
you look
Texas
up and
has
down
Ohio
this
State
list.
too, so that's
Texas
that's
also
tough.
has Ohio State. I can't remember. I don't think Georgia has a big non-conference game.
Um,
They play Georgia Tech, of
um,
course, but
yeah,
not
it's
like
Georgia
a
Tech. Obviously,
yeah.
they've got Marshall and Austin P.
Well, that should be 2 wins on
That's
their
good.
quest for
Oh no, wait,
nine
sorry,
and
that
a
was last
half
year's
over nine
schedule.
and a half.
Sorry, that was last year. They've got um, Tennessee State and Western Kentucky. What? Like
Should
that's
also be
different?
2 wins. Yeah, should also be 2 wins. So,
Sorry,
um,
fill in the blank with the teams they should beat the crap out of. My bad.
well, let's go to our under picks. I'm going to go with another team that's sitting at 7.5. They have a little bit of juice on the over. Minus 118 is the favorite there. I'm going to go with Tennessee to go under 7.5 wins. This is really just a vibes pick for me. You look, and Joey Aguilar lost his appeal, obviously, to come back and be the starting quarterback once again for the Volunteers. This is a team that ever since that massive blowout up in Columbus when they were trying to take over the shoe, all their fans bought those really expensive tickets to watch their team just never be competitive. It's really been a program that's struggled to find their footing, right? And it's going to be an interesting quarterback battle. George McIntyre, kind of the redshirt freshman, is going to be, I think, slotted into there. They also brought in Dylan Staub, or Ryan Staub, I should say, as a transfer. So interesting quarterback battle there, but just not a lot that's really putting the fear of God into, right? Deshaun Bishop should be a nice piece at the running back position, but I am not really looking at Tennessee and saying, yeah, that's a team that really scares me. The defense was a disaster last year. They bring in Jim Knowles to try to fix that. But it's an entirely new defense, pretty much, with a ton of transfers. That's the good news. The bad news is it takes Jim Knowles' system a little bit of time to gel. We saw that Penn State struggled with it last year in year one. Even Ohio State and Oklahoma State, those two schools at his previous stops, were really difficult to make that work right away. So I think there's just going to be some growing pains still on the defensive side of the ball as they try to play that hyper aggressive style of ball that Knowles wants to play. I think that's going to lead to a lot of struggles on the field, and it could lead to a 7-5 season. So I'm going to call Tennessee under.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think that that's a really good pick for that, and it's hard for me to look at a lot of these SEC lines and pick one that I really feel good about going under on. But upon further review, South Carolina at 6.5 feels like a really easy one to hit the under on. Mostly because I just don't know that the coach survives the year. Like, I just don't think that if you had to ask me, like, does he get fired? Does Shane Beamer get fired? Before the end of the season? I think probably, right? I don't think that he can survive. And I think it's a lot because of what we saw this last season with as many teams turned over head coaches as did. I think that you'll probably see that happen at least possibly again. And I kind of mentioned this as a thing a couple episodes ago, but with some of these newer coaches, I'm looking at their schedule. They got Kentucky and Florida in that first half of the schedule. Both of those teams bringing in new coaches with a lot to prove. If you're not on your game, and obviously they got a trip to Alabama at the beginning of the schedule as well, if you're not on your game, they might jump up and get you with a little bit of excitement. And now you're starting to look around in the building going into a bye week and you're saying, hey, nothing's going right. Then you got to come out of the bye week, play Tennessee, at Oklahoma, Texas A&M, at Arkansas, Georgia, and at Clemson to finish the season. There's a bunch of teams that are either like perennial playoffs or like probable playoff teams for this. Like, there's a lot of really good teams on the back half of that schedule where I think you could really see things kind of implode and fall apart if the culture in the locker room isn't very good. And personally, I don't believe that the culture in the locker room is very good at South Carolina. So I think, I think probably this is one of those that 6.5 could be dangerous. They might be able to scrape out 6 and make a bowl game, but I feel like if they're on pace to scrape out 6 and make a bowl game, they'll probably fire their coach, lick their wounds, and head to the offseason.
Yeah, he's on my hot seat this year, so I can't disagree with you there. And yeah, I know that we're just weeks away from the hype train starting up for the Gamecocks, and it's going to come because it
But
always
there
does.
will be Twitter videos, and he will be wearing sunglasses with flashlights and things.
and he'll walk off the field like Joe Namath at halftime if they have a big lead, and they'll probably blow it again, just like he did in College Station last fall.
Surely we could never blow a 28-point lead, and then it's the Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Shane Beamer blows a 28-point lead.
That's iconic at this
Yep.
point.
Yep.
Our To the Moon picks for the SEC. I went all the way. Our list of eligible teams to pick here was Ole Miss at plus 1,000, all the way down to Vandy at plus 8,000. At your own risk after that, of course. I'm going to go with the Florida Gators. Garrett at plus 2,000. I want to buy some stock in the new coaching staff led by John Sumrall. I want to buy some stock in Aaron Philo coming over from Georgia Tech, a guy that got a lot of starting experience when Haynes King was banged up. He was more the throwing option when Haynes King was operating with one shoulder for portions of his career. You also held on to Jaden Ball amid a ton of pressure to get him in the transfer portal. Dallas Wilson as well is back after an awesome freshman campaign. When he was healthy, he was one of the best receivers in the SEC last year. Oh, and you're going to back up Jaden Ball with Evan Pryor from Cincinnati last year, who literally carried the Bearcats at times last season. He was like the key to unlocking that offense at times when Cincinnati was rolling last year. This is going to be one of the most fun offenses in the SEC. I think John Sumrall, combined with a quarterback that I think is going to take care of the football much better than DJ Lagway did his first 2 years in college, I think the offense is going to be incredible. Now, Florida's always going to have the athletes on defense. They struggled with busts at times last year, especially against the deep ball, right? But hey, if they can put up a ton of points this year and just take care of the football on offense, they're going to have a potential to be right in the thick of this SEC title race at the end of the year, especially the way their schedule sets up. They do play Georgia, of course. That game's a little interesting this year because it's in Atlanta instead of Jacksonville while they renovate the Jaguar Stadium. But all in all, I'm really excited about Florida Gator football for the first time in quite some time.
Yeah, the official name of that game, of course, being the Invesco QQQ Atlanta Gridiron Classic. So, we got to honor the game.
I'm honestly kind of glad they have a stupid name for it when it's in Atlanta, because it wouldn't be outdoors, right? So we couldn't call it the world's largest outdoor cocktail party because it's indoors.
It's the world's largest indoor cocktail party.
But it's kind of nice that they're not just, getting clout off of that.
Yeah. No, I'm 100% with you there. Yeah, Florida's one of those teams I'm really glad to not see on my team's schedule this year. It feels like one of those that, like, you fall asleep at the wheel, you come out a little bit lazy at 11 o'clock, and they're up 14-0 in the first quarter. Very happy to not see them on the schedule. Please go ruin some of my rivals' years. That would be great. No, my To the Moon here. I'm glad that you gave me the Ole Miss Rebels because I want to take them. And to me, I don't think that there's going to be the drop off everyone else thinks that there is. I might be totally wrong on this. Maybe egg on my face when they're looking at 8-4 at the end of the year. Whatever. I just think that Ole Miss is going to be still a pretty dang good football team. I think that there's a lot still going well for them. I think that the way that they all came together is really, really good. And the thing that we saw is that their coach did lead them. Pete Golding led them through a playoff run and was very close. I mean, like a slightly better pass at the end of the game away from making it to the national championship game and competing. So I don't know. Maybe they're not going to be, top team. Maybe they don't even make the playoff, but I still want my stock in Ole Miss because I love where the program is going. I love what they have right now. And I think if you can just proof of concept 1 year and give it a pretty decent year, I think you don't see that big of a drop off for Ole Miss.
I like it. If you've listened to the show that I'm on the other side of that, that's okay. But it would not, especially when you're going to have the best quarterback in the SEC, arguably, in Trinidad Chambliss. That's a great starting point. And
that's a good place to start.
Yeah. And whatever the judges decide, ultimately, that's going to be decided after he finishes his whatever year of eligibility this is. So
go ahead. Tell me it didn't count.
We'll hang the banner anyways.
We can go stick his banner in the same closet as Reggie Bush's Heisman.